everybody. Thank you for joining me. My name is Carlos. Today we're going to be getting into our leg session. And before we do that, please join me in a nice sip of coffee. So good, so good. Off camera for a second. There we go. Now we're back. Very informal, very loose, not scripted. Everything is just off the cuff, winging it, and just explaining what we are doing with this bodybuilding endeavor. Now, bodybuilding is one of the most repetitive, monotonous activities known to man. There are many exercises. There are many variations on these exercises. I guess you could look at it like making music with 7 notes. You know, you can build out to 12 notes, the chromatic scale and all of that. But basically, you're kind of limited to a certain amount of activities or movements. That's fine. That's the purpose. That's just the way things are. So, how do we make this thing interesting? How do you make bodybuilding interesting? Well, for me personally, I find that the most interesting part of this entire endeavor is the progression. I haven't thought it out to the end game where I'm actually not making gains and just going backwards, like, you know, an extreme old age and or whatever, you know, or for whatever reason you're losing your gains. I guess it would be kind of like you have a great deal of wealth and you lose all your money. I don't know. I don't really want to think about that right now. I'm in the moment. I'm in the now. And there's a lot of deep psychology and philosophy around putting things out into the future in the sense of when I achieve something in the future, I will be happy, or if when something happens, you know, I'll change my circumstances. This is a very here and now thing, at least it is for me. Here and now, this is what I'm doing. It is a repetitive nature. How many times can you do a crunch, or a, you know, leg raise, or a bench press? And, you know, these things can get a little bit monotonous. Unless you are making progressions. So progressions is like, for me, it's just like the most important thing. When I have lost sight of progressions in the past and just go into the gym to work out, to exercise, it leaves me, of course, I feel great. I never, you know, feel bad about working out or exercising, but there's like an empty feeling of like, what is it that I'm actually doing? Like, is there anything happening here? Am I actually progressing? And once I dove deep into the knowledge of anatomy, of physiology, how to build muscle, the whole science of bodybuilding, you know, I found out that unless you're building, you're losing. It's not really a status quo game or a maintenance thing. So, building muscle, building strength, that's what it's about here. And bodybuilding, in its essence, is working on your lagging body parts. It's an art. Originally, it was like the sculptor sculpting the body, chiseling away, and bringing out the most perfect physique. So, this is also an endeavor of truth. You have to be a very analytical person on your own subject. And most people, me included, have a hard time viewing ourselves objectively. This is why even top athletes have trainers to tell them, look, you're off. You need to do this. You need to do that. And they look at themselves in the mirror and they might see that they're fine, or the other way around, that they're just absolutely not accomplishing what they're setting out to accomplish, and the coach will have a more objective eye and say, no, you're getting there, you're getting leaner, your triceps are coming in, you know, you're getting more definition here, size there, and the person may not look at themselves objectively. So, that doesn't mean that we should not try. This is a exercise in objectivity, in self-analysis, and ultimately in truth. And truth is the highest value that I know of, truth. So, in that order of ideas, let's get into today's session. Legs. Over the last few months, in fact, last quarter, from late September, early October, all the way into mid January, I was doing a very strict routine of progressing on some very heavy compounds, like the vertical leg press, the hack squat, and at the end, the Smith squat. So I found out now on this diet, the diet really reveals some weak, spots, and I found myself lagging in my glutes. As the midsection comes in, tightens up, the midsection is starting to become more visible. All the details are starting to come in. The legs are getting more detailed also. The glutes were kind of lagging, even though most of those compound exercises use a lot of glute muscle. Nonetheless, when you have a lagging body part, what do? You throw more volume at it. You throw more frequency. You throw more exercises, more focus, more isolation, in conjunction with compounds that will work that muscle in synergistic manner. So today, started out with these reverse hyperextensions. Some gyms have plate-loaded reverse hyperextensions. It's like the best thing. The hyperextension is where you put your heel into a pad here, you lean over a hip support, and you bring your torso up and down to work your lower back. Now, but in working the lower back, you work a great deal of glute and hamstring also. It also depends on the emphasis that you put on your mind-muscle connection and how high you hyperextend. So you can make it a completely glute emphasize, a glute centered exercise. Now, the reverse hyperextension is, as the name says, it's reverse. You don't lift your torso. The torso is static. You lift your legs are going up and down. Now, when you have a plate loaded machine, man, I dream of having one of those. It totally builds out the glutes and hams. It also brings in that tie-in of the lower back into the glute, which is so appealing. Like, the big problem with us men is lower back fat, like the love handles, that accumulation. It tends to be the last place you lose fat. And if you are completely chiseled in that area, your physique is like an exceptional physique. And that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm striving. I have always been very high body fat before bodybuilding, before getting into physique, and in my first 5 years of lifting, even, very heavy weights, I was still around 23, 25% body fat. Even though I was squatting 450 pounds and bench pressing 315 and getting strong, my arms were looking bulky. I was fat. And those love handles, just like, they weren't hanging over like really gross, but there's a lot of fat there. I can grab them with my hands like fat. So for me, that's like not acceptable. That's not acceptable. At this stage, it has to go. It has to go. So in reality, there's no exercise that will do that for you if you're high body fat. But if you are doing a deficit diet, high protein and proper supplementation, and keeping the carbs and fats low and keeping in a calorie deficit, and on top of that, you really emphasize those muscles, you will radically change your physique. Absolutely, you will radically change your physique. Throw in some good cardio in there, and that's the way to go. We're talking about the diet. This is what I'm talking about. This thing here, without this, I don't know what people are doing. I don't know how you keep track. I don't know how you gauge, what the hell you're doing. If you're not counting your calories, if you're not weighing your food, how can you keep control of the data that tells you if you're in a deficit or not? Or if you're in too deep a deficit? So I use that scale. I weigh everything out. I track all my calories. And I try to keep a deficit to the minimum because I'm really good at this diet thing now. I have a great deal of self-control. I don't get the munchies at night. I don't blow my diet. I don't eat any snacks that are not, within my program diet. So I'm really good at this. I'm not bragging. It's just it's a skill that I have developed, that I can do this for months at a time, probably, perpetually if I had to. I would just never break my diet. So, if you are that on point with your diet, my recommendation is there's no hurry. Take the deficit down ever so slightly. I'm not talking about 50 calories a day because that, you know, you get metabolic adaptation from somehow, and then it's just like you're not losing. The other thing that I use is the weight scale for my body, and I make sure that I am dropping body weight. So I track my food, I track my calories, I track the data, and I track my body weight. And in my particular case, I have to slow down the loss. So I don't go too fast. If I drop more than a certain amount within an average, if I drop more than a certain averaged amount over a period of time, I increase my carbohydrates. Protein always stays the same. I'm always eating between 200 and 250 grams net protein a day. If I can eat more due to some circumstance, I will. Usually it's my standard. So the only things that are really modified are carbs, because the fat also is very low. The only fat sources that I eat, I don't eat extra fats. I don't eat like many avocados or nuts or any of that. That's like, if you have a handful of nuts is a handful of lard. Oh, but it's healthy fat. Healthy fat, my ass. If you're over a certain body fat, that's not healthy, bro. It's not healthy. You're becoming pre-diabetic, insulin resistant, and you'll hope it's macadamia nuts. It's, you know, the flowers of the gods. I don't care what it is. If you're high body fat, those nuts, those oils, you don't need them. You need a very minimal amount of essential fats to get by. And you're probably, you know, if you're obsessed with like getting enough fat in, you're probably eating too much. But that's just my opinion. So I keep mine very low, and I modify my carbohydrates up and down to what the weight scale says. Gee, I dropped half a pound more than I should have. I'm ahead of schedule. So today, instead of eating 150 grams of rice in 2 portions, I'll eat 3 portions, and instead of 3 potatoes for breakfast with my omelet and chopped chicken, I'll have 6. It's that easy, bro. It's that easy. It's like a dashboard. You're going 55, now it's 60, bring it down, put on the brakes, change the gears. Once you have the data, you can do all these things. Now, before I knew this, I was clueless. I had the strangest notions, and now that I talk to people in the gym and I ask them, it's like, you know, hey, what do you do for your diet? And I said, I realize that people have the weirdest, most backward notions, like zero information. You don't know anything, Jon Snow. It's like, if you're not dialed in the know with nutrition of what calories and macros are, you don't know anything. If you're not weighing your food, if you're not keeping track, you're not doing it. It's just that simple. I mean, you can wing it to a certain point. Some people are gifted genetically. I mean, there's so many, you can't generalize like everybody, and you know, you can't do this. No. But for the vast majority of us, the vast majority of the population, why not do this the right way if you want to succeed? So let me recap on the diet. The weight scale, the digital scale for the kitchen, you track, you measure, you keep a slight deficit over a prolonged period of time. Now back to the routine, the glutes. Let me walk you through the exercise selection really quick. So I was talking about the reverse glutes. The first exercise, not plate loaded, not weighted. It's almost like a calisthenic. Got my glutes kind of pumped. My lower back, yeah, it's worked. Then I get into 3 or 4 sets of walking lunges. Working up to some dumbbells, very light dumbbells, but like just the walking lunges, when you lean, if it's a long stride, you're hitting the glutes. So second exercise, glute heavy. So by then, the glutes are worked. They're like, okay, they're getting in some work. From there, we go to the heavy compound, the first heavy compound, which is the Smith squat. Ass to grass, bringing it all the way down. Like these half squats, and I see people do this, and talk about ego lifting. That improper form for the sake of being able to lift something, because I can lift 2 plates now, but if I bend my knees and go all the way down, it's uncomfortable. I can't do it. But what is the purpose of doing a quarter squat as far as bodybuilding and hypertrophy? It's like, and most people, that's what they're doing unless they're really biomechanically built for the squat. Like some people are like built for it. Certain height, certain leg proportion, everything they're like vertical, they're going up and down, all the way up. I'm not one of those. I can't really do that on the free. I kind of tend to fold like a lawn chair going forward to be able to hit depth. If I stay upright, I'll fall backward. I was never able to perfect that. Not the case on the Smith. Now, of course, a case could be made. It's not as challenging as the free weight. So what? I mean, like, I don't care. I'm not going to compete in powerlifting. That's not my thing. I want to get as good as possible, build up as much muscle, and you can get freaking good on the Smith also. It is, for all intents and purposes, almost like the free weight. It's on a rail, but the weight is loyal. You're lifting that weight. If it's 400 pounds, it's 400 pounds, believe me. So anyways, it permits you to engage and to completely keep straight. It permits you to go very deep with proper biomechanics, and that's what I do. So, as you go deep, obviously your glutes are very much involved. And so that's the third exercise. Worked up to 3 plates, back up to 7 reps today. We're trying to build up to 10, 12 again. I say again because I got really strong on this last year. I worked up to 4.5 plates for 4 reps, 4 plates for 6 reps, 3 3/4, which is 395 pounds for 10 reps. And those sets are just very demanding. I mean, like, I don't care who you are. It's like, unless you're a 400-pound Eddie Hall, power lifter, strongman. I weigh 190 pounds. For me to do 450 pounds going ass to grass is like a big deal. Like, I felt like the strongest man in the world for my particular body, proportions. It took me like 13 weeks of progression every single week, just working at it until I built up. And then one day, I didn't make progress. I was going backward. Like, I couldn't even lift like half the weight one day. It's like, oh shit, okay, that's it. Peaked, that was it, good enough, move on to something else. So that's my third exercise, deep ass to grass. From there I go to the glute bridge, another glute exercise after the deep squat. And the glute bridge here, this is another exercise I've seen, like, Samoan powerlifters and other people, they put like 10 plates on each side. For these purposes that we're doing, to really build out the glute and get in the tie-in with the lower back and all that, you don't need that much weight. You could probably do it free weight, just calisthenics, and really get a nice build there. I put on 1 plate, plate and a half. Sometimes I go up to 2 plates. I have done 4 and 5 plates. And for me, it's just like, it doesn't get the job done. When I go with the lighter weight for that glute thrust, hip, the glute bridge thing, it just burns. Now, the trick here is to try to hold the bridge. Hold the bridge. You thrust up, and then you keep it there for a little bit. And you can do some partials with some speed on them. Don't try to go all the way down and touch the ground. And that's not what it's called for. You want to keep a limited range of motion within the contractile area, and then peak the contraction and keep it there. From there, went and finished with the pendulum squat. This particular pendulum squat at this gym, I worked up to the max. It's got 7 plates on each side. First attempt, I did 3 reps. It was pretty scary because those 7 plates on your shoulders, it feels really heavy. Like, that is a massive amount of weight. But to be honest, because it is a levered machine, once I start going down to the pad, it feels progressively easier, to the point where I could go all the way down. I have full knee flexion with 7 plates on the pendulum, and squat and thrust and push up with my hips and my legs. I'm not feeling it on my knees. Whereas some exercise, you feel like your knee's going to pop across the gym, like certain hack squats are terrible. I finally found a hack squat machine that was kind of like knee friendly, but that's just, I don't want to get off track. The pendulum, completely focused on the upper thigh. It's fantastic. And also because you're going with such deep knee and hip flexion, it really is a coup de grace. It's like the greatest final exercise, last exercise, compound heavy lift to a sequence of glute emphasized or glute centered exercises. The next day, because I'm filming this a few days after, the next day, oh, my glutes are tight. You stand up a little taller. You feel a little bit like more poised. The glutes are very important for that poise, for that for that masculinity also. You think, women have nice asses, it's like it's one of the most attractive features of the female body. But in men, not that I'm attracted to, male butts, but in my own particular case, to have the proper glute structure and a complete absence of lower back fat is probably the ideal. It's a sculpture. That is the statue. That is what gives the physique. The lean midsection with a properly voluminous glute and the flared quads. That is the silhouette. That is the profile. That is the look, the statuesque look that, I particularly would want to have. And so that was it for today. That's basically my spiel today on the diet, on the exercise selection for today. I'll probably I want to go back and do it again and again and again and again until I need to do something else. But for the foreseeable future, hopefully for the next 6 to 8 weeks, long striding those lunges, hitting those reverses, doing the glute bridges, hitting the squat, heavy again. And, I may change out the pendulum for a hack squat because I go to different gyms, and that pendulum is only at one of the gyms. And so it goes, guys. So that's basically it. So I'll leave you with the narrated video of the exercises, and that'll be all for today. God bless everybody. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like, post notifications, and share the video. Leave a comment, and we'll see you in our next video. So today was a very interesting leg day. I've been changing the routine a little bit for the better part of the last 4 months. I've been doing a very strict routine of heavy hack squats, heavy vertical leg presses, heavy Smith squats, and very few accessories. Working the leg extension very hard also. So now my glutes need special attention. They need to come up also with the hams, just basically the posterior chain. And it's not that they, they lost anything. It's just that they have to be brought up. They have to be brought up because at the same time that we're dropping body fat and body weight, you really want to emphasize your midsection, tight glutes with some size, and of course the leg flare. And so today I did this exercise as a starter for the workup. I call it the reverse hyperextension. I've seen Westside Barbell and many other gyms in the United States have this apparatus, which would be plate loaded, and you secure your torso and lift your lower body upward like this. It's a fantastic move. I have to improvise here, hanging on to the rail and really just contracting and squeezing with my mind-muscle connection. But it's an excellent exercise. I mean, you do this enough, it will pretty much, get the job done. Hard to get any weight on there, but that's not really the purpose. This is it would be great. I just don't have access to the plate load. I'm sure I would go nuts on that machine and just really work it to death. There are other alternatives for working the glute with weights. Besides the walking lunges or the Bulgarian splits. But here, this is what we're doing, and believe me, I was getting a full contraction. In fact, the contraction was so hard, I was starting to get a little bit of twinge on my adductor, on the inside of my thigh, which I have to be very careful with because of the heavy compound lifts I will be doing later. The other thing to note here is that it's an easy exercise. I mean, once you get into the groove, once you really start focusing on just lifting up your butt, it also really helps on the indentation of the lower back where the erectors meet the glutes and just the entire lower back. I highly recommend this exercise as a primer, as a starter for a posterior chain centered workout. And here we go to the walking lunges. Here I do them with a very slow, paused, meditative type of stride. This is not about running across the room, going as fast as you can, although everything is valid. You know, if you get really good at these, put some weight on your, some dumbbells and take the long stride and just really go for it with proper technique. Who's to say that that's not good? That's actually better. I just need to work on my balance. I haven't done these lunges in a long time, like many months, not years, but many months. There was a time when I really focused on these back in August. In August of 2022, I managed to do walking lunges at a Planet Fitness in Cape Coral, Florida, with 70-pound dumbbells in each hand. That was the most exhausting set I think I've ever done in my life. It just sucked all the oxygen and all the life out of me. And, I can get pretty strong with these, but again, it's like more cardio than anything else. So I just wanted to take it kind of easy. So after the primer of the reverse hyperextensions, just getting into a nice setup here with the walking lunges, and making sure that all the stress is falling on the hip and on the glute. Because you can do these in a manner that really emphasizes your quads. The shorter the stride, the greater the quad emphasis. Now, I have pretty long legs, as you can see there. I'm 5'11", and my legs are prominently long compared to, I feel that I have that body type, which just have long legs for my body height. So my legs need a special, different type of approach. I'm not the guy that benefits greatly from free weight squats, even though I have done them a lot in the past. I need more focused, specialized type of work for the muscles to actually build hypertrophy, and that's why I favor like the Smith squat. And of course, these accessory movements are great. Starting to feel the pump on my adductors, on my thigh, just everything. And of course, trying to maintain the balance, not falling from one side to the other like some kind of drunk man or something. And next set would be, I set up here this foot support. Next time I will be putting it against the wall so it doesn't slide forward. That was giving me a bit of I was losing my focus there, trying to keep everything in place and trying to find, how far back I should put my foot back. I've never done these particularly, so I have to practice them more. Now, I believe that this is actually the way to go with the lunges. Why? Because, first of all, you're not walking across the gym. So even though walking across the gym might be fun, this really permits greater isolation. I'm really leaning into the glute. And plus having a little bit of elevation there also helps. So next time I'll be doing more sets, more reps with a little bit heavier weight. So here we go to the Smith squat, which last year was my major progressive overload compound for any muscle. And I worked up to 4 plates and a 10 kilo on each side for 4 reps, going down to depth as you observe there. And I pretty much burned out on that. Didn't want to do it again. I stopped doing it for months and was doing other exercises. I was just trying to build up my hack squat, build up my vertical leg press. But here I want to build it out again because I do have a stated goal of doing 5 plates on these. And I feel like I'm pretty strong. Now, with this Smith squat, the thing is, for me personally, I don't know if any of you people out there can identify, it's all about the mindset of attack. If I go in like just aggressive and just powered up, I feel like I have unlimited capacity for work. But what holds me back is the psychology of it, because this is hard. I mean, once you get into the higher weights and you're doing 3-4 plates for 8, 10, 12 reps, the demand on your heart, the demand on your lungs is so heavy. It's one of the most uncomfortable things that you can do. It's like the hardest thing. Now, of course, it's the hard things in bodybuilding that get, results for sure. But there are extremes, and so I'm not willing to go to those extremes all the time. So I really have to psych myself up to get into a period of time where I'm willing to do that. So here going up to 275 and just doing, this is feeling really easy. It's like, okay, 275. This is like, easy. Now let's go for the meat and potatoes. 3 plates, 3 plates. Last few sessions, I did 2 sessions at 5 reps. Then I did 1 at 6. And so today I said, well, go for 7. And, I can do it. In any particular day, I can do it. But I have to, force myself. I have to whip myself and push myself around to actually do it. I'm just explaining to you my psychology. The strength is there. I need to get the willpower to do these things. Now the hip thrust. The hip thrust, to me, because I have gone up to 4 or 5 plates on this, is one of those exercises where weight is meaningless. It's kind of like the incline leg press. Yeah, you can put on 10, 12 plates. So what? Are you getting the burn? Are you getting the job done? Is it pumping the muscle? Is it building, blood flow, capillaries? I don't believe so. I believe, this particular exercise, you can do it without weight and get fantastic results. So here I'm doing it obviously with very light weight, with just 1 plate on each side, and really focusing on maintaining the bridge. Now, when you maintain the bridge, you're maintaining peak contraction. Remember, I started with the reverse hyperextensions, the walking lunges, the lunges in place, and so this is obviously a posterior chain glute-oriented workout, and this was my 3rd exercise in this series, and my glutes were starting to really feel worked. They're getting pumped like you would pump your bicep, and that's exactly what I wanted. I don't want to have a saggy ass. If you're a bodybuilder, if you're into physique, and especially once you start getting lean and you want to lean out your midsection and just look good, you want to make sure that your glutes are built out. You don't want a saggy ass or a flat ass. And I obviously have a tendency to do so, to have one of those. So I really have to pay special attention. And here, the last exercise of the session was the pendulum squat. Now, this pendulum squat for me is perfect, for my height, because it permits me to go very deep, very comfortably. People always they project their own insecurities, say, oh, Buddy blew out his tendons going ass to grass, blah, blah, blah. As I'm doing this, I am feeling absolutely the most comfortable position to produce force of any machine that I know. Maybe the vertical leg press, but this is even better. It permits me to lean into the pad towards, lean back and up. I don't know how to explain it, but my upper back is just really leaning into the pad. All the force is being projected to the hips and on the legs. Nothing is being felt on the knees. And it's just a very ergonomically, biomechanically friendly machine. For me, I've seen other people get on this machine who are shorter, and they don't go the full range of motion. I think it's just different. Every machine is different. Many machines don't fit my particular biomechanics. This one does. So here I go up to 7 plates. My previous PR was 7 reps. I started out this progression doing 3 reps. And believe me, it's very heavy. When you get under this pad, you feel all the weight, basically. Now, once you start going down, it's not so bad because of the lever. The lever means if those weights were placed further back, if they were placed squarely on my shoulders, that would be a different story. But since they are placed forward, that's it. So, guys, God bless.